Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. Well, welcome back. It is Thursday, and what a day and week it is. This, wow. We can start by talking about what happened last night with President Trump. His speech last night was underwhelming. You had people that were like, oh, it was the best speech in the world. I'm a fan. And something tells me the gatekeeper said, Mr. President, here are some of the things you can't talk about. I think he was going to come out with a bunch more fervor. And why do I know that? Because it was only 17 minutes long. And frankly, there's a lot of things that he said that we're going to do this, and we're going to get a new Fed chair, and we're going to walk through the line and do all these things. And that's in response to what the Democrats have said. No matter what you do, whether you're George Bush or you're Bill Clinton or you're Barack Obama, you are not going to be able to will the American people to think that they're doing better today and that things are okay. Yeah, gas prices are coming down. Here's the problem. The burden for the everyday American is through the roof. 56 cents on every dollar goes to the government. We are taxed to death. And with a system that is so overburdened on taxes, there really isn't a way to escape it. You're not going to be able to give people back money. And this is the whole concept behind what happened in 2020, where we handed out and doled out incentives, hoping that somewhere along the line, 2020, 2021, that you'll be able to push yourself outside of the realm of what's happening right now. And the reality of it is this: businesses find it very difficult to just exist. The burdens are they're just way too high. And so I think that President Trump was on point with some of the things that he said. Yes, I believe all of those things are true. But at the same time that I say that, I also look at the realities. Let's be honest about the realities. Bigger businesses are charging an enormous amount for what they do. Apple's taking bigger cuts of what they take on even a platform that they have that has music on it. It's a big complaint that musicians have today. 30%. I mean, imagine the amount of, you have just a container, you hold something, and you take 30% off the top just to have it on the shelf. We're not in a great place, guys. We're not in a great place. I don't think President Trump can turn the corner. Yeah, if you start making changes and undo all the things that Biden did in the 4 years he was in office. If you get rid of machines and mail-in ballots and actually get to a place where you allow the American people to vote for who they want in office, and which will carry down to what kind of legislation they have, but that's not what's happening right now. And now you have a ton of people out there that are pushing these narratives that they've fixed the machines. They've gotten to the bottom of the voter rolls. The gaslighting happening right now against the American people by stupid, ignorant influencers is out of control. And it's not the left that we're running away from right now. It's the people that say that they're on our side, that are selling us out for a bag of shekels. So we're going to go through a little bit of that. We also have a guest today, and I think this just goes right into what we're talking about as far as the overburdened system. Look, I don't think we should have any property tax. I don't think we should have income tax. I don't think we should be giving 56 cents of our money to anything other than to our children and to the legacy of our family. I think it's slavery. So retired IRS criminal investigator Brian Berntson is joining us, and he's going to talk about that tax slavery that we have. He was 22 years hunting money launderers and talking about on the global task force. He dissects the massive Somalian fraud that drained hundreds of millions from child nutrition programs, NGO shields, hiding kickbacks and suspicious ActBlue smurfing patterns flooding Democrat coffers. It's not just Democrat coffers. It's Democrat and Republican coffers, because guess what? They're in a club and we're not in it. What's going on in the United States is that we pulled back the curtain. We are in the Wizard of Oz. We got all the way to the yellow brick road, all the way down to where everything was made. We found out how the sausage was made, and behind it was a weak, pathetic individual. Well, behind our system is a bunch of weak, pathetic people that are a part of a cartel on both sides of the aisle. And look, that's not me being anti-American. We've talked about this before. I think the American spirit is alive and well. I think the ethos of our country is absolutely rotted to the core, and the sovereignty of our nation has been stolen by people who tell us that it's the safest, most secure election in U.S. history. And after we get done talking to Brian, we're going to talk about the white man bad syndrome, which, by the way, is going to lead to war. Going to lead to war. And people that have been deceived that think that it's white people over here when the only people that have actually deceived them are the people in their own environment, typically white liberals, and typically black people or brown people that have been put up on a pedestal and given a job and told, hey, listen, stay in line. We need to make as many people in this environment victims and stupid as possible. So they betray their own people for, again, a bag of shekels. Let's start here. This is a thing I put up there. Brian Cates, political columnist and pundit. I want to start here. What if I told you the 2026 elections are already secured? The 40 million plus fake Social Security numbers used to facilitate massive voter fraud rings in the various states and key battleground counties were removed from the system, and how no more voting ballot requests from those registered accounts using those fake AF Social Security numbers will be honored. This is why they don't want to turn over the voter rolls to Harmeet, but she'll get her way. Keep watching. And let me tell you how I responded. Not only would you be wrong, but you would be slitting the throat of the people. Your post proves one thing. You all know the system is fraudulent, but you're willing to let people burn to the ground to not expose all of it. If you expose all of this, you take the power system out of the people that are holding all the power. And Brian Cates, I just want to say this, fuck off. You're lying. You and the rest of these sellouts that are absolute betrayers of the American people, you need to just go sit down. Because as many people as we've had, as many people that have been in this fight for the last 5 years, it's not voter rolls, you fool. It's not even one part of the system. It's a collective of the system. And you telling us that, okay, we're going to let the elections be legitimate for one cycle does not solve the problem that we don't have transparent elections. But all you do is lie. All you do is continue to lie. This is where I have a problem. I'm going to skip over some of the President Trump stuff. We'll come back to it in a minute. Other than I'll say this. President Trump said he's going to send every military member a dividend of $1,776 before Christmas. I believe that the military should get the $1,776. I believe that 100%. Here's what I also believe. The American people, the people that are not a part of the bureaucracy or work for the federal government, those are the people that are the backbone of America that are putting all of their hard-earned money into the system so that anybody could get any sort of bonus. And the betrayal of those people for whether we call it the Somali issue or the $800 million they sent to Ukraine or the money that they send to any of these nations for, sex change operations or even education initiatives. I find it completely offensive. Completely. We can't even take care of our own people, but we dole out what are considered crumbs to keep the people happy. The problem is the people are never going to be happy. And the fact is that Republicans and Democrats both on both sides of the aisle and those that claim that they're in the middle, none of those people are happy because it's a miserable experience when you have to give up so much of who you are to the government to do so poorly with it, only to tell us, we don't have enough, give us more. And that's exactly what's happened. And by the way, that's the reason why you see catastrophic collapses that have happened over history, whether we're talking about Roman Empire, we talk about the Ottoman Empire, we can even go back to the Chinese dynasties that caused the same thing. People got tired of giving up to people things that were not theirs to take. Let's have a conversation with someone that probably has a lot to say about this. So Brian worked for the IRS. He was a special agent there. He's an expert in money laundering and financial crimes. More importantly, I just want to ask him the question. You worked for the IRS. The IRS took money from Americans. There's another guy that I want to have on. His name is Joseph. What's wrong with me? Anyway, he sued the IRS, looked into it, and found out nobody should have to pay taxes at all. Went to court, beat them. Doesn't mean that everyone would beat him. It just means that that jury at that time, is it Joe Bannon? Anyway, let's just welcome Brian to the show. I can ask him the question. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Joe.
So, you worked for the IRS for a long time. You just heard my rant of what I think. I'm not afraid to give up to Caesar's what is Caesar's. Give up to Caesar what is Caesar's. But what do you think about the American people and the tax burden that they have today?
Yeah, it's yeah, it's an interesting perspective, Joe, because I worked with IRS CI out of Chicago for 22 and a half. Enforcing tax laws, investigating money laundering and the rest of the financial stuff that goes along with it. And when I was an agent, it was, hey, this is good. We're doing good work. We're recovering money, we're seizing money, um, illicit profits from bad guys, etc. And then of course, when I retired, I started up my company, Money Laundering Consultants Inc. And then I started to see, holy cow, the amount of work and the workload that it takes for the bookkeeping side and the accounting side. It's a huge, huge burden, just to maintain books. Make sure your expenses are right, and then file your taxes timely, and make sure that you're not going to get jammed up on something stupid. It's a lot of work, and it's a big burden. And the American public now, I think, is getting some relief on the tax side from President Trump. But it's a burden. It's a real burden, and it's tough for people, working class folks that are living paycheck to paycheck. By the time they get their check, they got 40-50% of it left after the rest of it's taken out for taxes, etc. So it's tough.
That's about what's left. That's about what's
Yeah.
left. It's 40-50%.
Yeah.
I mean, and frankly, I gotta tell you something, Brian. It's to the point where, I talk to people all the time. I'm sure you do as well. And they don't see where the benefit is of any of the 40-50% that comes out. And
Sure.
they're struggling. They're struggling to make a living. They're making 150 grand a year, taking home 6 grand a month.
Yep.
Right? I mean, do the math.
Yeah.
It's not a small chunk that they take out. And yet people are having their wives have to go to work, and they look at their checks and they go, all right, I'm gonna take home this paycheck. I'm gonna take home $2,700. And you think that your first paycheck goes to your mortgage, and the second paycheck goes to all your other expenses, and your wife has to go to work, and then you find yourself trying to figure out, it's a second job to actually figure out your finances on the other side. Like you said, bookkeeping. It's not just businesses that have to keep bookkeeping. It's the individual that have to keep bookkeeping.
That's right. That's right. You've got, and it's interesting, Joe, because I've got at home, I have a copy of the tax code from like 1934, something like that. And it's about a half inch thick.
Yeah.
Now the U.S. tax code is about 8 feet tall of just stacked paper. So you're talking ream upon ream upon ream of all these rules, and how the rules change constantly. You almost need a team of accountants to stay on top of it, to figure out what you can and what you can't take, deduction wise and all that for John Q. Public, just the ordinary, citizen out there. It's a burden, and then if things are so complex, a lot of people don't even or can't even figure out how to file their taxes. So then you got to go get a tax preparer or get an accountant to handle all that stuff. And there's another chunk, right? So it's not just hey, let's get this done. You got to be careful on what you're doing because these guys, IRS, they're sticklers. They're sticklers for details. And, of course, they've got all the information in the world. And, they come at you and they've got resources and, John Q. Public doesn't. So what do? Well, they get the thumb screws out and they start saying, okay, well, you owe us this. Oh, by the way, there's penalties and interest on the money that you incorrectly took a deduction for. You know, there were cases when I was around that, like an employment tax case, a company could be, $500,000-600,000 in the hole with all the taxes, penalties, and interest. They don't ever get out of that hole. There's no way to get out of that.
Yeah. So what? Explain to people what you mean. Let's hypothetically say let's use the small employee. By the way, I know this pain personally. This
Sure,
was
sure.
you get yourself in a cycle where in 2007, like 2008, like everybody else, everything came crashing down on me at one point. Recovering was easier because you learn where the landmines are. But just so you know, employees' taxes, you pay it to you pay it to the IRS. You're basically the tax bib for the government. Somebody
Yep,
makes $5,000 a month, you have to collect the IRS taxes. You have to send it to the IRS. Okay.
that's correct. Yep,
If you don't pay it, and you're the one responsible for those taxes, in other words, you're the CFO of those taxes.
yep,
And let's say it's $50,000, and you were the one that signed off and sent it, and the company goes defunct. Those taxes are your responsibility. They chase you just like a education loan, right?
yep, yep.
You
So
can never run away from it.
yeah, you can't, your taxes, you can't bankrupt those taxes. They'll always be hanging out there. So those, that's a 600-pound gorilla that follows you around all the time.
Is that fair,
Um,
Brian?
no, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't get blood out of a turnip, right? It's so, but here, let me say this, Joe. So let me kind of explain the employment tax, just an employment tax case. So I'm working for a company. I make, $5,000 a month. They're pulling out my employment tax, my unemployment tax, my payroll, all of my taxes. They're supposed to be paying that over. And I've seen cases where they don't. The company retains those funds because they need them for operating or whatever. And then I go file my tax return and I claim those credits that the company was supposed to pay over to the IRS, and they don't. I get my refund back, and all of a sudden, a couple of years later, see with IRS, nothing ever happens quick. It's gotta it takes them a while for all this stuff to catch up. So it might be 2 or 3 years later that they come knocking back on the company and say, "Hey, you guys didn't pay over your employment tax, your unemployment tax, all that kind of stuff." So, but yet I've filed my returns and I've collected my refunds based off of those credits. So the IRS, so the John Q. Public's getting slammed twice, right? Because they're missing out on the money that's supposed to be paid over by the company, and they're also paying out refunds to the employees based on their W-2s and et cetera. So, you know, sometimes they'll go after those cases criminally if they're big enough. And it takes a lot to drill into those to figure out, culpability. Who was the one that was, truly culpable in this whole thing? Because the criminal side of a tax case is specific intent. You've got to show that intent. You got to show that they knew these taxes had to be paid over, and they didn't pay them over. So it's a burden too for to investigate that stuff and get that stuff nailed down.
Well, and I'm not saying that if you take the taxes from someone, you should not turn them in. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, right.
I think
right.
I think if you're a business, the trap that I got in, I was like 30 grand. I ended up paying it. It was easy. But it was an easy trap to get into because you don't realize it's not there. And by the time the 30 grand comes around, it's 60 or 70.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's
oh, yeah.
not because then they send you the thing and you're like, wait, I did pay that. And they're like, no, you didn't. They're like, well, yeah, we did. And you're arguing about whether or not you paid it. Then you go back and you find out you didn't pay it, that you're paying the one for the period before. And you're like, shit. Then you got to go back to them and say, okay, no harm, no foul. Here's what happened. And they're like, that's great. Here's your penalty and interest.
Yeah.
Like there's no, okay, I'm sorry you found the mistake and you know that you didn't pay it, but you still owe us, right?
Oh, by the way, and that usually, I don't know, that their interest rate fluctuates, but it can be, 27%,
a month,
16 to 27 to 30%, whatever it is.
A month.
Yeah.
Like it's compounding.
Compounds like, right? Yeah, it's a snowball that builds up pretty quick. Yeah.
And this is, Brian, this is the problem that people have. This is the problem that the public, John Q. public has, is that it's not reasonable. It's not, the government has made it so that, by the way, the trap doors are everywhere. They can catch you anywhere. I overpay on my taxes. That's my insurance. For me, my insurance to the government is that I overpay on my taxes, and I have an entire file of deductions that I could use.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And I put those aside because this is what the government does. They come in and they're like, yeah, I'm going to disallow that. I'm going to disallow that. I'm going to disallow that. And I'm like, well, why? That's a benefit here. It's right here in the tax code. They're like, we don't, and this is what you say. This is what you would say if you were in the field. I don't care what you say. I'm disallowing it. Right.
Yeah.
And then I got to go to court. I got to hire an attorney because you can't go to a tax court without an attorney. That's another thing. You can't go to tax court and represent yourself.'re not allowed. Right.
Yep,
so they basically stop you. And I don't think everyone understands just how draconian and just how abusive the IRS is. Sorry, Brian. I know you work for them for a long time, but it's abusive. Right. Sure. So what I do is I have a stack over here and they're like, well, this isn't allowed. I said, okay, I'm going to put this in there then. They're like, that's a $17,000 donation. I was like, yeah. They're like, well, why didn't you put it in before? Oh, I forgot. Actually, I don't say I forgot. I was like, well, I then explained to them that, I can amend this because I'm still within the time frame. I can amend it. Sure. And by the way, I got another 150,000 behind it. So I hope that God, you tell me I can't use that too, because I'll just check all those out. Then I'll take you to court and I'll get you for malicious prosecution. But let's start here. So I have a stack that I keep on every year. Sure. Brian, why is it that I have to do that against my own government that's already taken 56 cents on every dollar?
Yeah. It's as you said, it's very draconian and it's just burdensome. And I think they're trying, during the Biden era there, he wanted to bring on 86,000 more IRS agents. Well, they weren't all gun toters. They weren't all CI guys like I was. These guys are examiners and collection folks, collection agents. So what they're going to do was they were going to peel back the onion and go after everybody for everything. And totally bad. They would have been looking at, your 90-year-old grandma's tax return to see whether she needed to file, and we found some income that you didn't report, right? Because all of the banks that pay interest to you, or that are paying dividends to you or a brokerage house, they have to report all that information to IRS. And those will all either go in on a 1099, most of them 1099, some W Form Ws, but those all get reported in. So IRS sees everything that's being reported in, and then they go in and match up your stuff from your return. Hey, this doesn't match up. You forgot this. Oh, we're going to get you, you owe us X number on this, and we're going to hit you with a penalty. If it's big enough for interest on that too. So yeah, it's I don't know. I know back early in my career, it was back. I became an agent in '91, and I think it was around mid '90s. There was a big push, and there was so much blowback from everywhere. They wanted to jump over to a flat tax, right? Or um, or just a national sales tax. That was another biggie. And both of those um, present some real issues, from the enforcement side, the collection side, and those types of things too.
Well,
So,
what problems do they create? What
well,
problems do those things create?
a big one, on like the national sales tax. So if you go buy a stick of gum, you're going to pay, say, 2 cents national sales tax, whatever the
Right.
case may be. They
Right.
tax you on everything. So what the fear was, and I can see some legitimacy to it, is you're going to have a huge black market. People are going to start, stockpiling stuff and selling stuff underneath the table and not collecting the tax and paying over the tax. Then kind of the flip, what kind of dovetails into that too, Joe, is say you're a gas station, right? So you've got your suppliers that are supplying stuff to you, and then you got everything going out. Um, it it becomes very burdensome to track all that stuff as far as all your ins and all your outs, right? What's being held in inventory? What actually went out the door? Um, and so that was kind of the big thing from the national sales tax. Um, and then, of course, the flat tax. Um, that was like, hey, you made X, you're going to pay X, right? You make up the 50 grand, you're going to pay 8%. Um, and so I don't know what there was never really a much banter about kind of different areas where they could so screw the pooch, so to speak, on that kind of stuff. But where there's a will, there's a way. Whether they divert income from one year to the next, um, et cetera. So I've seen it all, I've heard it all, and it's where there's a will, there's a way, right? On people trying to get over on the system and not pay their fair share, or you know, um, we've had instances of tax preparers that'll prepare tax returns and just screw the pooch, $1 billion worth of tax returns that are filed that are false based on reusing social security numbers or what have you, and filing the returns um, on the electronic system, right? Because those will get processed, and those will get paid right out. Well, it takes IRS a while to pick up on schemes, and by the time they do, there's a couple $100 million out the door. And these tax preparers fold up the circus tent and move someplace else, get a different face, get a new representative, and off they go again. So there's just a lot of stuff that goes on out there, um, in that regard, where we just bleed money, and it takes IRS a long time to catch on to stuff. Once they catch on to it, you get an agent on it. It'll usually flop over to the criminal side on those tax preparer cases, and then you go gangbusters to try to recoup what you can. But usually, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the money gets, the person that comes in to get their return prepared, they get a little kickback, and all the big money goes back to the preparer company, and that a lot of times that money goes offshore, gets converted and moved wherever, and it's tough to track all that stuff.
So, we we get on here, we talk about problems all the time, and I don't ask the typical questions because, frankly, I don't think typically the way most Americans think. I don't think singularly. I see things in 5D, right? And we know the IRS is a massive problem for the American people. The American people are running around. People are telling them what the problem is. Now, if you're on the left, they're saying it's white people. If you're on the right, it's saying overburdened government and bureaucracies and everything else. It all traces itself back to a rotted system that frankly was never designed to favor the people. This is a rigged game. I mean, if you're not in you have people like what's the guy's name? Man, what is his name? The MSNBC commentator, the black dude. Somebody in the comments, give me his name. I should know his name. He's got $20 million in back taxes that he owes. And he just lives his life as if it doesn't exist.
Sure.
Right?
So
yeah. The normal American couldn't do that. They'd come and take everything from you. But because he's on TV, they basically leave him alone. Or how about the nearly $1 billion that IRS employees owe the government in back taxes that they didn't pay?
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
What's happening here? I mean, help me.
Yeah. Normally John Q. Citizen, right? If they get behind and say 20, 30 grand over a couple of years, 50, 60 grand over several years, pretty soon collection is going to go out and levy their accounts and start garnishing their wages, so they get their payments. Yeah, so they can start getting their payments in. I don't know about this MSNBC cat. If he owes that kind of money, you would think they would go, levy his property and levy his bank accounts and file his pendants on stuff and lock everything down. That's an interesting set of circumstances if they're not going out and rustling up that money from him, because obviously he's got the ability to pay, right?
Al Sharpton is his name.
Oh, good old Al. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so it shows that in 2014, it was $4.5 million in state and federal taxes. He's been supposedly paying it down. His current status is he owes almost, this says, anywhere between $700,000 and $6 million.
Yeah, if he's, depending on what tax years that was for, I mean, the interest and the penalties on that's going to be through the roof. He's going to have a heck of a time paying that down. And of course, Al Sharpton's an interesting cat anyway, right? I mean, he should have been locked up for the what the heck was her name? Got her to lie about the cops and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, back in the 90s, So I don't know what's going on there now with respect to IRS employees. I mean, we were under the microscope every year. We basically, I mean, they told us, hey, we're auditing you, not auditing you necessarily sitting down and going through everything, but they made sure that we filed by April 15th. And if you didn't file by April 15th, you better have a pretty dang good reason why you didn't. Because they'll come after you. And how do you not? How do you enforce the laws and the regulations under the code if you're not doing it yourself, right? So we had some employees I know in CI that were, hey, you didn't get your return filed. And your supervisor calls them in, or the SAC calls them in and says, what the heck's going on here? We got a notice, from inspection. You haven't filed your returns. What's the problem? And depending on what it is, they can take disciplinary action against you. But it's one of those things where, as an employee, we always had to be squeaky clean on all that stuff. I mean, if you're on a stand and I'm testifying in a criminal tax case, well,
Right.
hey, did you file your tax returns? Why are you so special? That kind of thing. So,
I mean, look, at some point, we debate and we banter back and forth on the ridiculous. And, Brian, here's my issue is that it doesn't seem to change. We talk about it. You could admit it. You work for the IRS. You're like, okay, Joe, that's all true. Let's say I were to walk into Mike Johnson's office in Congress and say, look, we all agree, right? And he goes, yeah, I agree. I'm like, great, let's just pass legislation that stops this from happening. Let's limit the power of the government, and let's cut the taxes for the American people by say 75, 80%. And he's going to look at you, Brian, and he's going to go, oh, well, we can't do that.
Yeah, of course.
You can't do that. And he could admit it to me because I know, because I've sat in front of congressional leaders and I've said, hey, listen, this isn't right. And they're like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, great, let's just get all 435 people together and let's get this voted on. Let's go talk to the senators, right? You think they'll agree? And they're like, yeah, everyone will agree. Like Democrats and Republicans all agree. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, we're good then, man. Let's walk in and let's clean this shit up. And they're like, Joe, you don't understand how government works. And I was like, oh, you mean I don't know who really runs the game?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a real conversation I had, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Sure. And I think there's some real big problems out there. As I look back over my career, with IRS, the way the government was, the way Congress was back in the 90s, Tip O'Neill and all those guys were always working hard to try to make things right for the American people, right? And then a few things changed in the mid 90s. And I think one of the big changes was I think it was under Newt Gingrich in about 94-ish, I think, where Newt Gingrich had term limits that were legislation, a piece of legislation that they want to get passed, and it got shot down in the Senate. And it passed the House, went over to the Senate, and it got gunned down there, right? And then so that's one big thing. So these folks look at Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all these folks that have been around there 40, 50 years. For what? Right? For what? You got these folks that are making $174,000 a year that are traveling to and from DC on a weekly basis, and they all walk out of Congress millionaires, all of them.
The average net worth of a person in Congress is $17 million.
Yeah, I can believe that. Sure. So I mean, Senator Harkin out of Iowa, when he retired, Bruce Braley was in Congress. He wanted to run for Harkin's seat. Harkin walked away with $6.8 million, And Braley asked him, "Hey, can I get $1 million for advertising and help me run my campaign?" America just laughed at him, shrugged it off, and said no. So all these folks are leaving, and they all get to keep their war chest. So there was something passed back in the mid '90s where everything changed, where they could keep their war chest when they leave. And so what happens then? So these folks they're not voting for their conscience and what's good for their constituents. They're voting for who's going to pay them who's going to throw their big donation over to their coffers, right? And I don't know. It's troubling. It's really troubling. We need term limits, and we need to have it so there's no lobbying. Once you've served in Congress, you did your term, you're done, and there's no lobbying. I mean, the lobby in DC is huge, and it's huge money, and the money just flies and goes to these super PACs that fund all these folks. So it's a problem, and we're John Q. Public all sits out here and says, well, that doesn't help me. Why did you vote that way? That didn't do anything for me. And you see it with these people that, all these congressmen and senators vote. And it's like, why did you vote that way? When it's totally contrary to, 70% of your constituents. So it's tough.
Well, let's examine that for a minute. Let's examine what you just said for a minute. It's not good for the people. We know it's not good for the people. Brian, why is it that we can't get to the obvious? Like, we know that, $1,776 is great that you send it to every military person. And I'm not criticizing President Trump per se for the things that he does well. My problem is it's not permanent. Right?
Right.
I mean, you say you're going to give people dividends, and you did all these tariffs, and we're going to give this money back to everybody else and do all these things. And frankly, businesses are drowning. It's almost impossible. The reason why we sent our wages overseas and we started using foreign assets to do things is we couldn't afford to pay the people here. And more often than not, it's not actually the pay for the people, it's the entitlements. It's I got to pay income. You pay income tax as a person. That's one part. But then I have to pay a 7.5% addition. I have to contribute Social Security. 7.5% comes from the person. 7.5% comes from the business. So as a businessman, you have to pay a tax to hire that person. That's not including your state and local taxes, which will be taxes on if you have an employee. You have to pay us $50, $150. In New York, it's $800. I think $750 or $800 per person per month. Right. So whatever you pay your employee, you have to pay them an additional amount. And then you have your unemployment tax, you have your workers' comp tax, you see what's happening?
Oh yeah. Yep.
And I haven't even started talking about healthcare yet. And President Trump sniffs around the butt, sniffs around the edges and talks about it. But the American people are literally at the death's doorstep, and nobody seems to see it. Nobody seems to understand it.
I think they see it, and I think they understand it. I think it's too big of a nut. It's too big of a problem, and there's too many things. There's too many cookies in the hands in the cookie jar to be able to figure it all out and get it all hammered out. To figure it out.
Well, we haven't even
the
started.
government. The government is so relied upon. The tax revenue, and I think I've heard different reports over the time frame here. It's, I don't know, they pull in about $1 trillion to $1.2 trillion a year in taxes, right? They gotta have some basis to fund all these programs that they've got. And they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back and raising and raising and raising. I know, before I retired in 2013, I retired August of 2013. And I know Chuck Schumer and a few of the other Democrats were hammering real hard on taking over the federal TSP, the Thrift Savings Plan, which is basically, a federal employee's a big chunk of their retirement. So you contribute money through into the TSP in your account, and then the government will fund dollar for dollar up to 3%, and then 50 cents on a dollar up to 2%. So the 5% they'll fund, and then you can go it was up to like 10%, but it's like 16 now. And I know back before I retired, they were poking around. Congress was poking around, saying, "Hey, we want," because I think there was $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion floating around the TSP, of all the federal employees' money in that pool. And they were talking about taking that over, setting up individual accounts uh, for each federal employee, and then paying them like 2 or 3% interest on that was it, right? So these they're always trying to find a way to wring out the towel and get more money because they've got all these programs going and they don't know how to fund them. There's only so much money in the economy, and they can't. You're talking 56% now ish of John Q. Public's money going to taxes. So I don't know. It's a tough one, man. And I think they've all painted themselves into a corner, and they just keep kicking the can down the road because nobody's got an answer for it.
Well, that's really the issue, right? They don't
Yeah.
have an answer for it, but nobody's really searching for that answer either, right? It's okay. I've arrived. I'm here. So now that I'm here and I've arrived, I just need to look pretty and smile for the cameras. And
Yeah.
look, if you take out the top 20 Republicans and Democrats on both sides of the Senate and the House, most of the rest of the senators are basically cattle.
Yes.
Right? They do not have a voice. They do not speak up. I was looking at some of the accounts on, say, X or Facebook for some of these other people, and they're relatively unknown. They're not well established. They're still making money, grifting off the side, being told to shut up, sit down, move this direction, move that direction. Not, there's nothing remarkable about any of those people if you look at their histories, and so this is what we get at every level across the board: is we get these people that are just terrible human beings, right?
Yes.
Because they go around with things. But Brian, these aren't complex issues to solve. These aren't complex issues to solve. We just don't have complex people smart people that are in those positions to solve these problems. There's no appetite to solve these problems because, frankly, that's not what makes them money. That's not what makes them wealthy.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay,
yep.
so when's the Boston Tea Party happening? When and I'll show up for it. I don't want to live in I keep saying this over and over again. I don't want to live in a country that basically is so rotted to the core that it's probably worse than any other country in the world. And I don't mean that I'm not proud of my country or proud to be an American, right? You won't see a person. I had a person in my suite. He was a client's son, was in my suite. This is a couple of weeks ago. And we're at a hockey game, watching the Avs play. Avs are just kicking everybody's ass. By the way, we're going to win the Stanley Cup again, just so you know. And you're in my suite, and he's sitting down. National anthem gets ready to start, right? And he's sitting on his ass, front row of my suite. Okay, front row.
Yeah,
What do you think
bad,
what do you
bad.
think? What do you think I did?
Yeah, ripped his head off.
Man, let me tell you something. Andy was wearing his hat. I walked in, walked around. I was at the very top behind the row 3, which is typically where I used to hang out in that part. I walked down and said, "Hey, stand up. Get your ass up." His mom and dad are on both sides of him, right? And he didn't stand up. I said, "You better stand your effing ass up and take that hat off." And his dad looks at me, and I was like, "You guys have a problem? Get the F out of my suite." Like I'm making the people in the front row in front of the suite turned around. I said, he stands up. I said, "Put your hand on your heart."
Yep. Yeah, the boy. Yep.
I mean, put his hand on his heart. And I just turned around and I put my hand on my heart and I let him finish the national anthem, right?
Yep.
So I walked to the back. This is a big client of ours, right? And his dad walks up to me and he puts his hands out and he goes, "My name is," and I was like, "My name is Joe." He goes, "I know who you are." And I'm like, "That's great. And I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to meet you. I'm sorry to meet you in this way, but your boy's not going to disrespect anybody in my suite. That won't happen. And he certainly won't disrespect our country, right?"
Absolutely.
And the blood that's been shed for. So he looks at me and he says it lightly. He's like, "Thank you." And I was like, thank me. Man, grow some balls and take. I didn't say this to him, but I said, your son doesn't have a right to disrespect people, but he's been taught in the education environment that there is no exceptionalism in the United States. And frankly, we're having this conversation. Most of the people that represent us are not exceptional people.
No,
right?
No, exactly right. Yeah, they're not. I mean, you look at some of the folks that are in there now, holy cow, they can't stand the U.S., the squad, AOC, all these people just despise the United States. And I went in the Army when I was 17, did my tour, came out as a vet, honorable discharge, went to Minnesota, got my degree, and then jumped over to IRS and served this country, 22 years there. Then when I retired, opened up my own shop, helped out a lot of people, with financial investigative stuff. And then FinCEN recruited me to go work for them, and so I will do anything for this country. I love it. It gave me so much, Joe. It gave me so much. And I'm so proud of it. And I just hate to see it just getting trampled and run in the ground by these people all the time, every day. And
how do we build a fraternity, Brian? I talk about this often. How do we build a fraternity of men and women? I truly believe that you can just stop. You can just stop contributing to it. You just have to have an American spirit that says, as a business owner, I'm almost willing to say, and I've almost sat all of my employees down and said, "I'm not going to take your taxes out of your paycheck anymore." I almost did it.
Yeah.
I thought about it. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give you all of your money. And here's the things that I need you to do. I need you to, make sure that you keep track of all your expenses and you can write them off against your business. And I almost gave him a clinic on it. I went through this whole process. And my lawyer came to me and said, "Joe, you're going to become a target." And I said to myself, "That's a hill worth dying on for me." And he goes, No. You don't even understand the target that you're becoming." And my lawyer believed in what I was saying. Like he sat in front of me and he's like, "Joe, you are right." But he said many men have died being right. John F. Kennedy died for being right. I mean, there's a lot of people that died being right.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay." And he goes, "Do you just want to die? Because they will kill you." And I was like, "What, you think they're going to come in here and shoot me?" He goes, "No, but they'll make it so bad for you that it will take your life."
Yep.
Right.
They will run you down. They will bury you alive, basically.
Well, Brian, how about the fact that it would have given my people back? They say the average person makes, I don't know, 80 grand a year, 85 grand a year. I would have given them $40,000 a year raise to go figure out how to manage their finances. Imagine getting an extra $40,000.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know? And I was forced out of it by my lawyer saying, not the hill to die on, not yet.
Yeah.
He did
Yeah.
say
Because
not yet.
you've got your, whether they're employees or whether they're, subcontractors and all that kind of stuff. And you get into that quagmire, and that's an ugly baby. It's one that you're not going to win.
But I mean, how much better would their life be if I gave them that money back?
Absolutely. Of course. Of course. I mean, we're down in Florida. I'm down in Florida now. And I mean, Governor DeSantis now is saying he's pushing real hard on alleviating all property taxes. No more. And there's
You
a
shouldn't
bill
have it to
pending
begin
now.
with.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a slave tax. Brian, it's
sure.
slave. It means you don't own your house. You rent it from the government.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is why I say, why can't we have a fraternity? Why can't we just get together in a community? And maybe I've started it because we started this brotherhood in Colorado, but where we get people together and they think that we're crazy and they go, you're nuts. How are you going to get rid of property tax? And I was like, how in the world are you okay with property tax?
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you own your house, but you still got to pay a tax on your property that your house sits on. You don't just own the property, but when you buy it, you're paying for the property, and then you got to pay a tax on it. Yeah, it's interesting concept.
All right. How do we build a fraternity? It's a serious question.
Yeah. I know. Well, I know that, yeah, that's a good one, Joe. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
This is the quagmire that we're in, is that we can identify the problem. We know it's the actual problem. We know that they steal elections. They admit that they steal elections by saying, oh, we've got it figured out, pinky swear, we've got it all done. We just got rid of all these social security numbers. Right. So they admit it. They admit there's theft. Right. And then they come back in the same sentence and say, oh, but we've already secured it.
Yeah.
It's all done.
Yep.
And the same thing can be, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's, kind of some interesting insight on a case that I did a long time ago, back over 30, probably about 30 years ago now. Was an individual that was here on a tourist visa from the Czech Republic. And when you're on a tourist visa, B2 tourist visa, you can't work, right? And those visas are usually good for 6 months. So you can come to the United States, you can visit for up to 6 months, and then you have to, voluntarily leave. Well, a lot of these individuals would come over here and they would come in on their, their passport and their visa, and they would want to set up a bank account here in the United States, to people from back home could send money to them. So they have the ability to, instead of walking around with a big lump of cash or whatever, have a bank account. Well, to have a bank account, you gotta have a Social Security number. So the Social Security Administration set up a system where somebody on a tourist visa, or was traveling on a visa for a limited time, could go get a Social Security number, and they would issue a card with a Social Security number with a A in front of it, and that A was, and also on the front of the card would say not valid for employment. and they could take that card and go to a bank and set up a bank account. Well, what they would do then is that's a legitimate Social Security number in the system. Then they would run up Chicago, hit one of the street corners up there, and have that Social Security number with the A transferred onto legitimate Social Security stock, and have their number on there and their name, and the not valid for employment would be on that card, wouldn't be on that card any longer. All of a sudden now they got a legitimate Social Security card. Oh, hey, now I got a legitimate Social Security card. I'm going to go get a driver's license, right? So huge problem, right? So how do they know when they say they purged all these Social Security? How do they know?
They don't know, Brian.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't
who
know.
these people.
I mean,
who these people are.
They,
I mean,
they don't.
these guys,
They don't have any idea who they are, and they just made it up. And Brian made it up. Brian Cates made it up, and they continue to make it up as they go along. And my problem with our government apparatus and the people that run it is they don't run anything. They are told and handed a script and said, "Hey, stay on script, stay on script." And when they're not, they get browbeat back, and then they get told that they're going to get primaried and nobody's going to give them any money. And then the power structure to be the billionaires out there, who, by the way, they're worth billions. It doesn't matter to them. There's not a decision that is made today that will adversely affect the billionaire out there. It just won't affect them.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So as you start perpetuating this problem downstream, they get to control the haves and the have-nots, right? And the have-nots and the haves have nothing to do with how much money you have, frankly. It has more to do with the fact of whether or not you stay in line and you respect the power structure and kiss the ring. And if you're willing to do that and you work for the government, the bureaucracy, or you're the lawyer, or you're this, or you're that, a perfect example of that are, the haves interact with the pedophiles, interact with the traffickers, interact with right? They're their friends.
Oh, sure.
Right? And so they get very small sentences. They get gifted, as statuses in the federal government as quote unquote informants. They get these things, right?
Yeah.
They get to exist in our society and get away with murder, while average everyday American Joe Q. Public, he's the one that faces the sharp stick of justice, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How many cases did you have where you were investigating them for money laundering, where they push money from one thing to the other, but it was genuinely not malicious, but you had to go after them anyway?
None. I mean,
None?
all the folks that I went after. I mean, I worked on procurement fraud in Iraq and Kuwait, Operation Iraqi Freedom, for 7 years. So we had, contracting officers from KBR, et cetera, that were, taking bribes, kickbacks, and, laundering their kickbacks back into the States so they could utilize that money. They're the ones that I investigated, I'll say, Joe, were all, 100% bad guys that were doing really bad things, whether it was trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, Social Security fraud stuff, you name it, international money laundering stuff, movements of money overseas, taking their ill-gotten gains and trying to bring them back to the States. So all I can honestly say, every case that I worked they were true bad nuts, and we got them all.
Well, let's talk about getting them all. You didn't get the politicians. Sorry, Brian. I'm not going to give you that one.
Yeah.
You didn't get you didn't get the biggest offenders.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Of course.
It's good strategy, though, by the way, don't you think? I mean, as an investigator, basically sandbagging. I know it cost me money to do it, but sandbagging write-offs is a good way to go.
Oh no.
It's not?
Well, I mean, you can. I know a lot of people that do it. That'll say, "Hey, I took X number of deductions, and oh, hey, by the way, I got an envelope with 20, 15, 20 other ones that, hey, if I get any of these denied, hey, I got these, I got this, I
Yeah, I
got
mean,
this,
you don't want to nitpick your deductions, right? They have to be legitimate. I mean, I keep
yeah,
Mile IQ on my phone, so I make sure that I separate out my personal trips from
sure,
my business trips.
absolutely, yeah,
I've built a discipline around the things that you're talking about. Like you have to keep your own book of business. Even, I mean, I get paid as a employee, right?
sure,
And I still have to make sure that I keep track of all those expenses. And so
sure,
there's now technology to do that. But my problem is that I look at the way that I live my life, and there's a ton of different expenses. Like someone will walk up and say, "Hey Joe, we have this thing with this child. Is it $500?" And I'll give them a $500 donation. So
sure,
the things that I keep handy, I'm a reverse tither. At least I was for the most part before I got sued in 2020 for these election lies of the Eric Coomers of the world. So I give away a lot. I live on a little, give away a lot. God provides more. It's the craziest concept ever. Honestly, it's freakish,
sure,
but it works. Give away more, get more. But I remember the first time I had a conversation with the IRS person about one of my taxes, and he's like, "Nobody gives away 50 grand to that charity," and I was like, "Why?" And they're like, "Well, you don't make enough to give $50,000. Why would you give them 50 grand? Like, what do they do for you?" That was the question I got. I was like,
man.
I went, they do scholarships for kids, like it's for education, right? And he's like, "Well, why
Sure.
would you give him 50 grand?" And I was like, "Actually, I gave him 100, but you saw the 50 over there. This is the other 50."
Yeah, yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
"This doesn't make any sense, Joe." And I was like, I'm sorry. Do you believe it?" And I'm using it as an opportunity to talk to him. Do you believe in God? And he's like, "What difference does it make?" And he's really crotchety.
Oh,
I was like,
sure.
well, it makes
Yeah.
all the difference in the world. Do you believe in God? And he's like, I'm not going to answer that question. That's not what I'm here for. And I was like, well, let me tell you about God for a minute. Let me just go to a couple of scriptures. He's like, I'm not here to talk to you about Bible verses. I was like, okay, what else do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Oh, the folks that work at IRS, you get a spattering of some, you know, I was always kind of I was never in anybody's face. I mean, I was always kind of the laid back guy. I'd Columbo a lot of people, right? And I was never there to browbeat anybody. I mean, I'd tell them, "Hey, you can lie to me, and that's totally up to you. But I'm going to tell you what you tell me. If I find out that it is a lie, the next time you see me, I'm going to be putting handcuffs on you. So you can't lie to me."
Somebody
But
tried
that's
that
a
with me.
oh, did they?
Yeah, in 2007, they tried that with me. I was like, I'll tell you. Actually, she was amazing. She was an amazing IRS agent. She was amazing. I loved her. I thought she was awesome.
Sure.
But it was in Englewood before they shut down the office in Englewood, Colorado. And I went over there because I had this deal, and I walked in and I handed her the paper, and I was like, yeah, I need to find a way to get this handled. I just found out that, yes, this is owed, right?
Yeah.
And when you shut down your business, you don't realize there's so much stuff going through when things are in turmoil.
Sure.
And so she sat down and she made me come in this room, and I told her all the stuff that happened. I brought this big box of stuff, and I said, "But I want to get this paid. And I want to take care of you. And here's some of the assets that I have that we can just assign to it and get it done." And she came back in. She goes, "I want you to tell me exactly what you told me last time." So I told her exactly the same thing. She goes, "If you lie to me about this," because she was going to give me a deal on it, right?
Sure.
Um,
Was
and I
she
was
with
like,
collection? Was she with collection or exam? You
she
know?
was She was she was from one side and she went to the other side. So
Okay.
she carried a gun.
Okay, so she was with CI then. She was
Yeah.
special agent. Yeah.
Yeah. So super nice, right? But said that same word to me. And I was like, listen to me. I don't have time to lie to you. And let me give you some more paperwork on it. And so
Yeah.
she was amazing. She ended up retiring 2 years after because I picked up the phone, tried to call her, and would go to her voicemail. Something about you guys,
Sure.
by the way, when you retire from the IRS, they just let you keep your voicemail forever. What the hell is that
Yeah,
all
we
about?
do. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I was still getting voicemails 3 years after I retired.
It's the craziest thing ever. I'm like calling. All of a sudden, like 6 months later, I get a phone call. Joe, I retired. What? You retired? You can't let all the good ones retire. You got to go back. You got to
Yeah.
go back in. I need your help. She's
Yep.
like, call this person, right? And to just to kind of round this off, I think the IRS needs to be abolished. But
Sure.
my experiences with the IRS agents, other than once, were actually very decent. They're very decent people.
Sure.
So I don't know if that holds true today. I haven't had the conversation lately, but I haven't had the conversation since they have more information. So they know that I have all these donations, right? They know that I have all these write-offs that I'm not using. I truly believe that, right? So, but
Yeah,
relatively decent people, huh?
Yeah, I think if you're definitely stroking checks for those to make those donations, I mean, you get into the checking account and it's it's pretty straightforward stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't look like I'm not buying Bugattis, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
nobody's gifting me Bugattis back.
yeah,
That's not
sure.
happening either. So,
Yeah, yeah,
well,
yeah,
Brian, I know we're not going to solve the world's problems today, but I think the idea that you work for the government and you understand the problems, and we're literally having this conversation about those problems. One of the things that is really impressive about when people come on the show is that I ask you questions that you don't expect to be asked, but how much what you say is what people are feeling and seeing, right?
sure.
And that's the scary part about that's the scary part of where we are, is that I could have 500 politicians on here. Oh, are you going to run for office or anything? You going to run for office?
Me? No,
No?
no.
Why
Yeah,
not?
no. I don't know. I don't. I can't be a snake oil salesman. I can't.
Bro, you
I
worked for the biggest snake oil manufacturer in the world, the IRS. Don't tell me you
yeah.
can't sell it.
I
Come on now.
I these people they just make me sick.
Can't. Maybe that's the fraternity.
Yeah, maybe. I think what you're seeing now, and I haven't watched a ton lately, but you're seeing a lot of these people from both sides of the aisle popping smoke and getting out. They're I think they don't want to be left holding the bag. They don't want to be the ones that are standing there and say, "Oh boy, I was part of this." Right? There's a lot of people that are getting out, on both sides of the aisle and Congress and in the Senate. So
They
I
weren't
don't know. I think we
legitimately
definitely.
elected.
What's that?
They weren't legitimately elected,
Yeah. Right. We
right?
need term limits. We need term limits on this thing, and you know,
Well, the only way we're
people
going to get
can't
term
be.
limits is if you decide that, hey, I might run for office. I'm recruiting
Yeah.
you right now, right?
Yeah. No, I don't think
You're
so,
like,
Joe.
no. Okay, well, Brian, pray about it before you just tell me no. I mean,
Yeah.
this no thing. I don't like rejection. It's just killing me.
Well, I've had back in Iowa, a ton of my buddies were saying that I needed to run, and I just I don't think I could do it. I don't think my stomach can handle it. All the underhanded backroom crap that goes on. That's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm the upfront, honest, you're going to get what you see guy, and that's it. You know,
So Brian, they tell the politicians tell us that we have to play chess. Matter of fact, we see it all the time. Let's play chess. Let's play chess. Let's play chess. Because you want to keep your pieces on the table longer than the other guy, right?
sure,
And
sure,
one of my guests says that, well, the pawns, when they get all the way to the side, what happens to them? And I was like, well, they get kinged, right? They can turn into the queen, but they get kinged, right? So, and but I put up a post that I literally just put it up while we were talking. It sat on my profile, but I didn't say anything until just now. But it says, do you know what Operation Overlord is?
no,
Okay, most people don't, right? Most people
right,
don't know what Operation Overlord is. In every operation where you're I mean, you went in and worked with some of the stuff that was happening in Iraq and things like that, correct?
yep,
Okay.
yep,
So Operation Overlord is the Battle of Normandy. Okay.
okay,
It's the storming of the beaches.
sure,
Were they playing chess? Or did they
oh
come
yeah,
right through the front door? I mean, they came right through the front door. Matter of fact, it was written, if you look at the documents, the battle command documents, they basically said is we're going through the front door. It's gonna take some sacrifice,
yep,
but we will win, and we will win decisively if we come through the front door. Sometimes you have to have Operation Overlord.
yep,
Right? Sometimes you have to come through the front door. And right now, if we want to solve things and we want to restore integrity to the American people and what they see, you have to be willing to come through the front door. We need Operation Overlord. What we don't need is to play chess. Playing chess,
yeah,
we're going to die as a nation, and we're getting really close to that now.
yeah, yeah.
Run for office. Brian, how can people follow you?
Hey,
So you can run for office. So they can encourage you to run for office.
well, about the only thing I got out there right now. I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm also on. I got my website, www.moneylaunderingconsultants.com. There it is.
Hey, so can I hire you to find foreign bank accounts
Uh,
or
sure.
only U.S. bank accounts?
You can usually find the foreign bank accounts through, if the money's moving through by wire or, through a financial instrument, you can usually find those offshore accounts.
All
So,
right. Well, I think that there's someone I need to talk to then, because we were able to identify some bank accounts, and then the banks kind of basically hemmed up. I really want to catch all the bad actors in the election systems
sure.
that are laundering money, and I think it's a pretty drastic amount of money and pretty large sums.
See, a lot of, like, if money's moving offshore, um, they um, all the uh, all the wire transfers into and out of the United States go through FedWire,
Well,
Federal Reserve
sometimes
Bank out in New
they wouldn't
York.
even need to make it through the United States,
That would
right?
it would stay U.S. bound,
Yeah.
domestic. Yeah,
I mean, think
sure,
about it. If you're stealing money, you want to steal it from. I mean, if you're taking bribes and things like that, there's no better way to protect the money than have it overseas in an overseas account from overseas sources,
sure, sure. I mean,
right?
we saw that a lot in our procurement fraud cases as time moved on and as things morphed. There was, they were first bulk cash smuggling currency back, and then they were sending, um, money orders, et cetera. Well, then they started getting towards the end, they started setting up offshore bank accounts with debit cards offshore, and then they would come back to the states and just use those debit cards to, go buy a car or whatever. Uh, and there's no currency transaction reports that need to be filed on any of that kind of 8300s or anything. So yeah, they got pretty sophisticated as we kept taking these guys off one by each. And then they started getting a little smarter and a little smarter and a little smarter. So
It gets me. So people can follow you on your website. They can hire you to go find money for you, and you're going to run for office. Got it. I got it all figured out for you, Brian. Next 10 years,
All
I
right,
got it figured
Joe.
out for you. Hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being honest with us and giving us a good insight on what's really happening, and for recognizing that we're in a very perilous time for right now. So
Yeah,
tough
we
stuff.
are. We are. Joe, it was
All
my
right.
pleasure, man.
All right. God bless you, brother.
Yeah, you too, pal. We'll see you.
All right.
All right.
What a good dude. And there's something, by the way, to be said for recognizing all the peril that we're in, all the places that are kind of a mess right now, but also recognizing in the middle of all of that maybe we just don't have the answers. There's a reason why we don't have the answers. I'm going to see if Jeff, you picked up on what I was saying right there. Jeff goes, Joe is going after Serbia and Coomer. I said, yep. The truth is I am. So I'll be reaching out to Brian as well on that. So join me in thanking him for the 22 years that he served. Bad people that cheat the system, they have to be caught. But normal people just get caught up in things that they're not trying to cheat anything. They're actually really good people. And unfortunately, the system is designed to take from them what is not theirs to take. So I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm going to talk to you about right now. And I'm going to go back, and this is where I get to talk a little bit about what President Trump said last night and what it meant to me. And we're going to talk about Bongino and Kardashian Patel. I'm no stranger to the fact that I have no desire that Kardashian Patel, to me, is a very disgusting individual. I don't like the guy at all. But let's talk about what President Trump said. Let's put up the first video, please.
And indeed, the American dream. The yearly cost of a typical new mortgage increased by $15,000 under Democrat rule. In 11 months, we've already gotten that annual cost down by $3,000, and it's coming down a lot lower. Wait till you see. The numbers are going to be shocking. And I'll soon announce our next chairman of the Federal Reserve, someone who believes in lower interest rates by a lot, and mortgage payments will be coming down even further. Early the new year, and you will see this, in the new year, I will announce some of the most aggressive housing reform plans in American history. A major factor in driving up housing costs was the colossal border invasion. We have never been invaded. This is the worst thing that, frankly, in my opinion, the worst thing that the Biden administration did to our country is the invasion at the border. The last.
So here's what I'm going to tell you about just the first part of this. Number one, there's other things that President Trump was going to talk about. I truly believe that's his case. I believe he was going to announce something that was happening down in South America and Venezuela, and some of the offensives that we've been put ourselves in the last little bit. You can tell in 17 minutes that I don't want to say he was in a frenzy, but he was pissed off. Like he went on and spoke, but he was upset. And I think part of being upset is you have handlers and people that he probably had a very disruptive conversation with, so that he becomes combative in his address to the people. What does that mean? Well, it means this. When President Trump typically speaks, he's not angry about it. He's not passionate about it. In this case, he was putting out what he possibly could get out. And I think the frustration of what he was not telling the American people, and this is not Q, it's not, you can just tell. You can tell when somebody gets to a place where when I get into a place where I walk into let's say I had a board meeting. This happened. I had a board meeting, and then I have to go into a staff meeting, right? I've got to talk to the teams. And the board meeting, they're like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. And I know that if I did that, it would be good for the team. But they're saying we're not gonna allow you to do these two things, Joe. And you walk in there and you had it set. You wrote it all down and you had the thing in front of you and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do all this stuff for my people. And you just got out of the board meeting and you walk over to the staff meeting and all of a sudden the fire by which you tell people these other 10 things, which are not that exciting. Like the two things you wanted to do were really exciting. You're not allowed to talk about those things because you've been handled by a board that says you're not allowed to do that. We had to check into this and check into that. And I was like, I've already checked into it. They're like, you're not allowed to do it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not allowed to do it. Then I walk in to have my meeting with, or even when I come on the podcast and I've been told that this is happening and this is happening and this is happening. And I'm like, that's all bullshit. Here's what we need to do. And there are some things that President Trump threw out there yesterday in the 17 minutes that I was like, oh, that's nice. At least somebody is getting some benefit. Let's talk about that benefit, because this one I agree with fully. I just wish that everyone understood that the government is taking way more than they deserve to take, both at the state level and the federal level. Play the next cut.
Because of tariffs, along with the just passed one big beautiful bill, tonight I am also proud to announce that more than 1,450,000, think of this, 1,450,000 military service members will receive a special, we call Warrior Dividend before Christmas, a Warrior Dividend in honor of our nation's founding in 1776. We are sending every soldier $1,776. Think of that. And the checks are already on the way. Nobody understood that one until about 30 minutes ago. We made a lot more money than anybody thought because of tariffs, and the bill helped us along. Nobody deserves it more than our military, and I say congratulations to everybody. And by the way, we now have record enlistment in our military, and last year we had among the worst recruitment numbers in our military's history.
All right. So again, I will reiterate something that you know about human nature, is that nobody knew about that until 30 minutes ago. When President Trump said that, he says, I have to give them something. And I will say that I don't necessarily have, I'm not sitting in the room, but there's a list of things President Trump's like, I want to go for X, Y, and Z. I want to go over these things. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to talk about this stuff. I think that when Tucker Carlson said that President Trump's going to announce that we're going to war, I truly believe that was one of the things that President Trump was going to talk about, if not the main thing he was going to talk about. And I believe he got tricked by the people that are in his hen house. And do I know that to be true? Yes. You could tell by President Trump saying that I just came up with this 30 minutes ago. Let's give $1,776. All right, give me some information so I can give something back to the American people. If I'm not going to talk about what I know is going on and be transparent with them, which is what I said I would be, I have to be able to give them something. I set up this meeting. And I think that they all stayed on board. And at the last minute, somebody said, oh, Mr. President, we can't do that because of this fear of loss, 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 fear of loss. And you would say, Joe, you don't know that to be true. And I'll tell you right now that I know it to be true. Go back and watch every one of the interviews that President Trump has done. He's a master. He's a master that right now is in the middle of being controlled by not just one, not just two. He can't figure out who on his team is actually for him and who's against him. And one of the people that I think saw that, and Kyle Seraphin predicted this back in April of 2025. Kyle Seraphin said, let me see if I can find this. I was just talking to him on X while we were talking. In April of 2025, let me see if I can forward it to you so you guys can have it. I'll read it. He says, and this is he's responding to a couple of people. They are cooked. Dan will be out before the end of the year. Cash will by midterms or after Trump is done. Hard to say. He doesn't finish his term, obviously. They blew the opportunity all over, but the crying. The window to be successful was narrow. and it was basically closed before Dan swore in, crying shame. And then the same day he said, "You'll be saying this in November 2028, except Dan will be back at his podcast desk or running for office by the end of the year." There you go. That was Kyle in April of 2023. You guys have it? Or did you already put it up? Wasn't paying attention. There you go. April 23rd. That's what Kyle said. Dan had this to say. Let's go ahead and play that.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this, and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day. We share it. Our offices are linked. He turns on the faucet. I hear it. He's there he gets in at like 6 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't leave till 7 at night. You know, I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning. He uses the gym. I work out in my apartment. But I stare at these four walls all day in D.C., you know, by myself, divorced from my wife. Not divorced, but I mean separated, divorced. And it's hard. I mean, you know, we love each other, and it's hard to be apart.
But you're doing some great work. You're straightening out the FBI. You're moving buildings. There's a lot of change.
I got one more thing.
All right, let me just tell you the reality of what Dan is saying. Dan is saying the stink. By the way, that was several months ago. That was not something recent. I think Dan got in and thought, okay, we're going to do really good things and we're going to push forward. And Dan Bongino is tied to Julie Kelly, who is tied to her husband, who gave all of this money to the Democrats. And Julie Kelly never accomplished anything in her life, supposedly stood up for J6ers, as did this guy named Steve Bannon. And Steve Bannon comes out. He's the fighter of the people. Only he's tied to Jeffrey Epstein in a way that's just very uncomfortable, meaning he stays at his place, he's cozy, goes to his place in Paris, stays at his flat there, comes back to the United States, stays in his flat. When he got convicted of being a pedophile, the person that was there to tell him he needed to be more likable was Steve Bannon. The person that's kind of stayed away from the edges but sniffed around it to try and convince the people that he's the Pied Piper is Steve Bannon, who is tied to Julie Kelly, who is tied to Dan Bongino. And when Kyle Seraphin, who, like me, cannot seem to stomach bullshit, basically said to Julie Kelly, you're a sock puppet. No, by the way, these other people are sock puppets, and talks about them because he knows that they're sock puppets. All of a sudden, Dan turns on Kyle Seraphin, and now the game is on. Now we know who's connected to what. But I actually do believe that Dan started with the idea of doing something good and ended with, now I'm a part of the very big machine that, frankly, I've been talking about for years. So I think leaving is because he couldn't stand the stench. And the rest of it, I think, is tied directly to that. But we wouldn't have a show that wasn't centered on the ridiculous if we weren't talking about the ridiculous. And so Hollywood is rewriting history. Remember who writes history? History is written by the victors. If this came out, I'm just going to play the cut, and then I'm going to tell you what it's about. Go ahead and play it.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed?
Get off my food.
Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
When I first saw the videos of George Floyd, there's something that was stirred inside of me. My brother was murdered by a police officer. They made up all sorts of stuff. And by the way, my brother ran from the police. So this isn't just a case of my brother didn't participate in his own death, because he did. And admitting that is very difficult, but running for the police on a motorcycle should not be a death sentence. You shouldn't be able to knock a guy off a motorcycle at 90 miles an hour and kill a person. You shouldn't be able to do that. But they did. Now, with that said, I saw the video everyone else saw where he's kneeling on his neck. We didn't know where it was, everything else. And so I remember being on with Max, and I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, what do you think? And I was like, I think it's bullshit. Well, I think there's a lot more people in this country, the 40% of the have-nots that I talk a lot about, that have similar experiences where they feel like they're not in control. They feel like they're being manipulated or enslaved or treated like a serf, or, you know, that they don't matter. And, but that's not what happened here with George Floyd. George Floyd was in a situation where he contributed to his own death, and then he fought through it, and he had 4 times the lethal limit of fentanyl in his system that he probably swallowed. I think that actually they said he swallowed it. And so he contributed to his own death. Now, he said, I just swallowed a bunch of fentanyl. It would have been different. They would have treated it different. They would have probably brought someone in. And Derek Chauvin could be the worst police officer in the world. I mean, this could be karma catching up to that guy, which I don't really believe in karma. I believe God kind of sets everything in motion. But in this case, Derek Chauvin did nothing wrong. And the fact is that they put these movies out there saying that he's this great guy and to be revered. This is a guy that was a systematic criminal. He was a criminal. And so how do you reconcile going and working and doing work with things like the Dream Center and everything else, and advocating for guys that spend a lot of time in prison to break off the rearview mirror, re-enter society, and become a productive part of the community? How do you reconcile that with saying that criminals need to be charged and taken care of? It's really simple. They served their time, they got out. Now it's time for them to lay their scarlet letter down and continue their life. Right? That's the true, that's what real men do. That's what real people in the community do, is that they welcome people that want to care for and become a productive part of society back into society. That's what you should do. Right? It shouldn't be a life sentence. Now, in this case, George Floyd was still a criminal. He was still doing criminal shit. And he got caught doing criminal shit, passing, I think, counterfeit money. And all of a sudden, now he's the good guy when he's doing criminal stuff. I don't think you can reconcile what happened to Derek Chauvin, and George Floyd and make a hero out of a guy that's not a hero. Now, did George Floyd deserve to die? No, he didn't. But George Floyd wasn't murdered, and there was no act of violence. And there was no way, the way that he was treated in the video, we should see it. It was not the way it's being portrayed by the media. And smart people can see that, and stupid people that don't scratch below the surface and do their own research can't. That's the reality. And these are the same people telling us that black people are being systematically oppressed by white people. No, they're being betrayed by the very people that say that they're there to help. It's a sad world. It's a sad world. Well, let's move that over to the other narrative that they like to do. So, by the way, the people, I'm not I'm certainly not anti-Muslim. I'm definitely not anti-Jew. I'm not anti anything against anyone except for shit people. But there's a lot of cartels that shit people together. And one of which is that there is a growing thing out there to go after people because they're white. I mean, look, I said I was in the airport and I was walking, and this black woman walks across here and gets in front of me and then tells me to move. She purposely moved in front of me, and I pushed her out of the way and kept walking. But her comments about it being about race or that I've been oppressing her for 250 years, she looked for me. She looked for a guy that she knew probably wasn't going to put up with her shit, which is true. I wasn't. I didn't. But how random is that to be in an airport and have somebody walk over and do that to you? I can tell you that there's people that are listening right now that that's been done to them. They've been called all sorts of names, all sorts of names. And let me put this poll up. Let me talk about this. Here is a post. This post is a Rasmussen Reports poll. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? It's okay to be white. Now, remember what I said about not debating the ridiculous? 52% strongly agree. 17% somewhat agree. 9% somewhat disagree. 7% strongly disagree. And 16% not sure. Think about what just happened here. Think about what's happened here. And this was, by the way, on the heels of the question that was asked by the Rasmussen Report, which is Black History Month good for America? It says February is Black History Month. Many Americans don't believe this annual recognition is helpful. The latest Rasmussen Report national telephone and online survey finds 42% of American adults think the celebration of Black History Month helps improve the nation's racial tolerance. So 30% disagree. 28% not sure. The number who see Black History Month as helping improve tolerance is up slightly from 36% in 2011. So that's a poll that they have for Rasmussen. But this was on the heels of the EEOC chair, Andrea Lucas. And she put this up, and this was in relation to that. So this is, are you a white male that experienced discrimination at work based on your race or sex? You may have a claim to recover money after federal civil rights laws. Contact the U.S. EEOC as soon as possible. The EEOC is committed to identifying, attacking, and eliminating all race and sex discrimination, including against white male employees and applicants. To learn more, read one page explaining about DEI-related discrimination. Okay, so let me just tell you what happened. They created a problem, and then they said they're coming in to fix the problem. This is the same government. The same government entity did this. It's not like it was done by someone different. It's just bipolar because depending on who's in office, which is why it's really important you not have stolen elections. The friction that is caused. Let me just tell you about the American people. We're not bipolar. We didn't elect President Trump and then have Biden, and overwhelmingly we're so happy with what he did, we went back to Trump. That's not, we're not bipolar. Where most people in America are sensible, straight ahead people. But they've decided to take more meat off the bone than they're supposed to take, and they continue to do that, and they do it through elections. And then they lie about the elections, and then when they admit that the elections are fricked, they say, "Oh, we are fraudulent," and they say they fixed it. Reality is they haven't fixed anything. So here's another surprise here, a surprise poll. Surprise, surprise, white men are the only demographic that pays disproportionately more in taxes than the population as a whole. And all non-whites are net negative in the United States. The founding fathers only wanted white people here for a reason, folks. This is a real thing. This is absolutely real. Population, 30.7%. Income tax is 42%. White women, 30.7%. Income tax, 28%. Black men, 6.3% of the population. Their income tax, 2.5%. Black women, 2.5%. Hispanic man, 5%. Hispanic women, 5%. Asian men, 3%. Asian women, 2%. We just had this conversation about taxes. I thought it was a good idea to talk about the income tax and the IRS because, frankly, all of you know it, but you don't do anything about it. And you just had the guy at the IRS say that you got to have a PhD to get through it. And that's free and fair, right? That's a free country you live in. Just curious if you see it that way. We are not angry. You know, somebody said that, and actually, I think we agree that we agree that Americans are frustrated and angry at costs have gone up everywhere, and we want to tie it back to unchecked immigration, right? Again, a problem that they created, and then they bring someone in as a savior, and then they all fix it. It should never have been broken to begin with because we debate the ridiculous. and we allow them to create victims of us in our own society. Here's an immigrant from Somalia who has a message for Americans. This is what you pay taxes for, right here.
You work all day, you don't got shit. Thank you for working so hard so I can be home all day, free. I can use my EBT. Go to work for me, white boy, white girl. Yeah, go to work for me, you white animals. Fucking work for me. Yeah, you fucking work for me. And the U.S. government they work for me. All of you work for me. Now go to work. Pay them taxes. Take care of me and my people. All right? This is my land. I control this place. This is my reality. You all gonna be enchained. I'm gonna lock all you guys up if you don't pay your taxes. You better pay your taxes.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? There's a certain amount of rage that you get to when you see stuff like that. I'm at that point where my rage has just turned to, whatever. The people are either going to get pissed off about it and do something about it, or they're not. Again, with the crazy eyes. Yeah, I agree with you. Fully. Absolutely crazy eyes. Let's dig in here for a minute. Let me see if I can get back to it real quick. Here's a cut from Portland, Oregon. And this is what our country has come to, where we are literally defending the invaders. Play it.
We're doing a ICE watch because ICE agents have been in the area at other schools. So we're here just to let ICE know that we see them as a deterrent and as witnesses should there be a detention, and as a warning for parents and children that are coming to school and leaving.
I don't understand this. We have the soldiers that come back that can't get adequate care, that are shooting themselves in front of the VA. That just happened in San Antonio. And you have people that are American that are standing up for people and shitting on the American people, or just stepping over them. They just don't care about them. Let's go ahead and play. This is Border Patrol Chief. I'm getting into a heated confrontation with the Illinois mayor. Go ahead, play it.
Highlight immigration enforcement. That's why we're here. Sorry, Ashton. I'm disappointed that you're disappointed. The use of guns is unacceptable. Racism is unacceptable. And the violence is unacceptable. Yeah, it is. That's why we're here. That's why we're here in your community, because you refuse to do what we are doing. Violence. Thank you. What violence are you concerned about? There's violence committed by those that shouldn't be here in your community. I'm unaware of that happening. Well, that's probably the problem. Maybe you should get aware of it.
Hey, Bongino, we don't want you here, bro. We don't want you here.
Okay, I want to point out what he just said. The mayor said, I'm unaware of those problems that are happening. If you go to Evanston, that's the Evanston, Illinois mayor, by the way, another white dude. No, I'm taking that back. He's a white Jew. He's a Jew. He's not white. And I'm sorry, but you can't have both ways. You can't say you're not white and then me not be able to identify you because you've created a whole new race for yourself. He is a Jew. And so this guy says he's unaware of all this violence that is happening when they've set up shop. So you have all these different gangs that are illegal gangs that are set up in Evanston, Illinois. And so the Border Patrol chief is going in and saying, we're going to take them all out. And he's like, well, you can't do that. This is racism. If racism means that you're getting rid of people that commit crimes against other people in the community, then it's racism. But if you want to redefine it as that, then you also have to redefine it as these people in the community are being victimized by people that shouldn't be here. Here's a federal officer dragging a liberal activist across the road who is swarming police officers attempting to stop from deporting illegal Somalians in Minneapolis. They're not playing in Minneapolis. Let's go and play it. We are catering to the ridiculous. And that's why I know that President Trump had more to say last night than what he said. Check me on that. I promise you, it's going to come out in the next couple of days that he had an agenda to go out. Someone's going to leak it. He had an agenda to go through, and somebody stood in his way and said you can't speak of those things. But then the White House put out a video for ICE. There's something that's getting ready to happen. I don't know what it is, but let's go ahead and play it.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
Back to the places from which they came.
Oh, what fun it is to ride.
A free flight out of our country.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way.
To any foreign country, as long as it's not here.
Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh, dashing through the snow.
Man, it's crazy. It is crazy, crazy, crazy. It never seems to get better. It never seems to get. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're in this place now where both sides are ridiculous. Both sides. Like, we know that there's a tax problem. We just talked about tax problem. I was like, Joe, why would you be talking about the tax problem and the IRS and all this stuff and have this guy Brian on while we're dealing with all these other problems that we have? Because those aren't problems, those are symptoms. And as long as the American people keeps funding out this group of people that then get to do bad things, take your money and use it against you, we're going to continue to have the same problem. Where do you think all the money for Act Blue came from? It came from your pocket. It came from the 56 cents on every dollar. And where did all that come from? How did it get to 56 cents? How did it go from 2.5% full tax, never having property tax, having a levy against your taxes every 5 to 10 years, to now they get to take the equivalent of somewhere between 8 and 12% of your income on property tax on the average every year. So you can rent your property from the government. How to go from one to the next? Well, that's where the elections come in. So I talk a lot about elections. And the fact is that the elections are stolen. They're fraudulent at every level. There's not a election in this country that is not fraudulent. And you'd say, Joe, I found one in Podunk, Kansas. And I would say, good for you. Good for you. And you know what about Podunk, Kansas? It doesn't matter. And it's probably deep red. And they'll probably shoot you in the face if you try to steal their elections. And they probably don't want to use machines. And if they do use machines, they know everyone in their community. So it makes it really difficult to steal anything. And they still might try to steal 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 votes. They still might. So we talk about the things that are necessary. I don't actually care what Kardashian Patel does. I care about the fact that he runs the FBI, and it's the most absolutely destructive organization in the country. It has been responsible for creating more havoc and hell for the American people than it ever has uncovered and was able to resolve. Sorry, that's the truth. And the DOJ under Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche has been pathetic at best. We have people in this country that are going through massive amounts of litigation, lawfare, as a result of the fact that they have played hide the weenie and gaslit the American people on what happened with elections. And no matter how much evidence we have, you have other people that stand in the way of getting those things across the finish line. You should step in, and you shouldn't create victims of people. I shouldn't have to go to court. I shouldn't have to at all. You should have stepped in and arrested all these people, but you didn't. And that's how I know that we're not living in a world that's based on how we solve problems. I mean, I'll just use Tina Peters as an example, another thing that I talk about quite a bit. Tina Peters is a hero. Yesterday, I talked about Victor Marx, the fact that I could no longer give him support. Victor Marx did a radio interview, and I can't, for the life of me, understand. And I went and met with Victor Marx. I'm like, oh, he's a nice guy. Something didn't sit right with me. I went to his property. I took a walk with him. I talked about what his priorities were. I said, here's what, if you want to win, this is what you have to do. You have to go talk to the 40% that are diseased and problematic. And disease, not that they have a disease, but that they're in trouble. They don't have any education. They don't have any food, and they don't have any opportunity. That's a very sick disease community. Sorry, it is. And they get two choices: go play sports, and then we'll own you there, or go be a drug dealer, and we'll incarcerate you within the next couple of years. We'll just build a machine. We're putting the drugs on the street. We know who's selling them. That's the system we have, right? So I said all that to him, and I was like, you need to doge the government here too. He's like, I've never said anybody else say that other than me. Yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to doge the state government. But I started asking questions of how. And I left there with more questions than I had answers, thinking that I was going to get something different. And then I went and watched every one of Victor Marx's videos, every single one of them. And he went in, and he's really good at showboating, and he's really good at telling you how you can take a gun out of your hands with one hand. Guys, find me the video real quick. He did one just a couple weeks ago where he took a gun away from someone. It's like, hey, can you show us this deal where you take a gun away from someone? Totally scripted. You know how I know it's scripted? It's really simple. Here's how I know it's scripted. For those of you that are in Colorado, because I said, Victor, do you want to come on and do an interview with me? He says, you have to send me the questions. Those are the only questions you can ask me. I'm like, okay. I'm not interested. You ever see me go through an interview and actually only talk about certain questions? Yeah, that'll never happen either. But then the interview came with Ryan yesterday day before yesterday at 6:30 KOA. And there's some other parts of that are problematic for me. And look, I'm not on the train of attack Victor Marx. Not my deal. I'm not going to do it. He's just not my guy. Because the person that is my gal is Tina Peters. And when he said, and I want to reiterate this because I got back from Trent. Trent called me last night. He knew I was pissed. Do you know where to find the Tina Peters court case records? And I said, I'll send them to you. So I'm going to send all that stuff to him. And the other thing he said to me, let me go and do this. Because here we go. I read this to you a little bit. If you missed it yesterday, go back and watch the podcast from yesterday. Boy, that's a long one. Oh, let's see here. Super long. Let me see here. Cody Davis. The guy's name is Cody Davis. The first time I heard, he posted this whole thing, Cody Davis. Cody Davis, by the way, can piss off. He's a little bitch that works for the county court. I'm not our commissioners. I'm not sure he's been elected fairly either because the system is completely compromised. And this is from the Mesa County Commissioner who was over Tina when she was on their team. If you never spoken with him, I would love to set up a call. I would want to make sure Victor has the right information on the situation, but after the discussion with Commissioner Davis, he revised his language. Here is my issue with all politicians that tell me they're not politicians. You become a politician. You lie. And the stuff we played yesterday, I thought about it last night when I was having a conversation with someone that volunteered to work on Victor Marx's campaign. And she sends me a message that says, hey, I need you to know something, like this whole Victor Marx deal. And I'm like, okay, well, continue to talk to me. Like, what are you thinking? And she wrote something, and then I said, okay. I did not. I called her. I picked up the phone and called her. I go, here's my problem with the video of or the conversation he had with Ryan at 6:30. There's a girl named Holly. If you didn't watch it, if you guys can find it and post it so everyone can go listen to it. I think it's important if you're in Colorado, even if you're not in Colorado and you decide you want to support this guy, you're welcome to. But the interview went like this. He started the interview by asking questions about whether or not why you would miss a governor debate in Fort Collins. And he said, well, I have a previous engagement. And they're like, yeah, but those are in Florida. And he goes, yeah, but I have a previous engagement. And then goes and says, why would I show up? I'm winning. Like I'm way ahead of everybody else. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy, he doesn't understand that the people of Colorado, they're looking for something different, and he's showing himself to be the same. You're an elitist. You don't want to show up. People in Florida are much more important. A fundraiser in Florida is much more important than the people in Colorado, especially the people in Fort Collins, which is a relatively diverse group of people. You'll find a lot of independents would show up and listen to this debate. And independents are independent for a reason. They don't want to be tied to any political party because they think both are relative shit. And that's there's more people that are independent than are Democrat or Republican in the state of Colorado. But Victor Marx then goes into Tina Peters. And the discussion about Tina Peters wasn't about Tina Peters to start with. It was President Trump speaking. So they played a cut of President Trump speaking. And Victor Marx decided to say, yeah, the great thing about President Trump is you never know what he thinks. He's thinking. Now, President Trump issued Tina Peters an unconditional pardon because she was protecting federal elections, which she did. She was also protecting federal information from the election, which she did. And what Cody Davis didn't report on is directly tied to the fact that Tina Peters was denied an affirmative defense. She was not tried by a jury of her peers. That is a lie. This is what they do when they basically stack a jury and keep out information that would have exonerated Tina Peters, because you can't find someone guilty of something if they're actually serving a public duty and trust, which is what she did under federal statute. And then the judge wanted to keep it out and called one of the witnesses, which is a CIA Fed informant. His name is Conan Hayes, kept him out and called him in the trial a surfer. Not that he was a CIA informant, not that he was a IT specialist, not that he understood these systems. He called him a surfer in order to denigrate him and to use that as a justification to keep his testimony and to keep his affidavit out of the court. This is what you do when you're trying to protect the cabal. But Victor didn't dig deep into it. But what he started the conversation with Tina is that he went after President Trump first. See, he became smarter than President Trump. And when you come out and you basically do what Mike Johnson and what many of the other politicians have done, which is kind of slight or walk past President Trump as if you're smarter than he is and you have more information than he does and you're a bigger authority than he does, you've already crossed the Rubicon too far for me. And he said, wow, now President Trump has already issued an unconditional pardon to Tina Peters. He has all the information. President Trump is not stupid. He has all the information related to the election fraud in 2020. And he talks about 2020 as if it's an isolated event, which I don't agree with. But I think what he's saying is that our elections are shit. President Trump issues a pardon. Victor Marx comes out and says basically, no, President Trump is wrong. She was tried by a jury of her peers. And I'm not going to say that she's not guilty because I think she's guilty. But this old woman calls her an old lady, basically. Brings Tina down to the lowest denominator, this old lady in jail, as if she doesn't matter. President Trump doesn't matter. You said this about President Trump. And then Tina, you relegate her to this old lady in jail. Now, so Tina Peters, your vernacular means something to me. How you talk about people shows me the amount of respect or disrespect you have for both the position and the person, and the fact you're not willing to do the hard work. So if you don't do the hard work, how are you going to get me? You did the hard enough work that you read a paragraph by Cody Davis, and that became now your new, this is the direction we're going to go in. I'm going to go with this. He called Tina an old lady. And then he said, but I'll commute her sentence, as if he's throwing down peanuts to the peasants. So I did not come to the conclusion after I got done talking to her that I can't support Victor Marx because of all the other stuff that they say about him. No, I came to the conclusion very carefully, very concisely on an interview he did where he was asked questions that he probably didn't know he was going to be asked. And he either A, couldn't answer them, or two, he treated our people like shit. When you treat our people like shit, you're not on my team. You're not on my team. I don't have any, and I don't have any love lost for some of the other people that are out there that, frankly, there's some pretty disgusting people. Let's see if I can put this in here so you can play this as well. Did you guys find it, by the way? Did you guys find it? Did you look for it? Okay. So this, I don't even know what this one says, but Victor Marx was asked a question by someone in the audience about his call with Scott Bottoms. And I just put it in there, and maybe we could play this. I don't know how long it is. Let me see how long it is. It's pretty long. Let's go ahead and play this a little bit. Just put me on the side of it. Okay. The governor's race in Colorado is super important. And every single day for the next 8 days, I'll be talking about this governor race because, frankly, I've got to make a decision. I've got to make a decision on what I'm going to do. And I've got to make a decision if there's someone that's in the governor's race that is a viable candidate that can win. It's willing to talk about the people that we should be talking about. I don't think we have that right now. Do we have it yet or no? All right. Let's go to the comments real quick. I'll do that while I wait for this to download. See what you guys are saying in here in the comments. Man, you're talking about AI. Ugh. I think you're talking about Tina. Now, look, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stand up here and defend the other candidates. I'm not doing that at all. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the other candidates as if they're the answer or not the answer. Yeah, Jeff, I believe you're better suited and more effective outside of government. Yeah, maybe. The problem is that the government is not. Okay, let's go ahead and play this if we can. This is I don't really know what's on this. I didn't get a chance to listen to all of it, but this is an interaction between someone. This is at a Colorado Springs meet and greet down in the Springs. Let's go ahead and play it.
Charity and then Tanya.
Hi there. Thank you for being here today to answer these. I'm really bummed that you only have 10 minutes to answer all these questions. But so you speak a lot about integrity, which we all agree on. Of course, that's up there with number one, and transparency. So I have a question, and you might know what's coming because I've spoken out on social media. I've listened to both you and Ryan Schuling. Both you and Scott Bottoms on Ryan Schuling, and there's been some possible misrepresentation as far as Scott has said about your claims that he ever asked you to be his lieutenant governor. You've mocked him twice, multiple times actually, including yesterday publicly, making a mockery of someone that you say is your friend, claiming that he asked you to be lieutenant governor. Walk us through exactly what that conversation was without paraphrasing or misrepresenting that.
Sure. What's your name again?
Charity McPike.
Tell me about Charity.
No, this is a question for you.
I understand, but I'd like to know what a question like that.
You know what? You're running out of time, and I'd like to know.
Then make it fast.
Answer this question. I've been following you. I have great respect for what you've done. Although questions are being raised about some of that, including by Scott Bottoms, about that he will not have you speak at his church ever again because there's many questions that he's finding concerning about where your money has gone that you've raised. But this is not the question. It's have you misrepresented Scott Bottoms asking you for lieutenant governor, beginning at Charlie Kirk's memorial service when you took the stage, which I think was a little bit of a, a usurp of that opportunity. What was the conversation between you and Scott when he asked you that question?
Well, thank you for the question. So I did speak at Scott's church, and he had no problem with it. He asked me to come back and speak at a men's event, which I had one of my guys speak at. Scott and I have never had any issues. When you say I consider him a friend, I do. I texted him when his father died. I thanked him, I congratulated him and his wife on their anniversary. What I've said about Scott, and you may have to define, what was the words you just used, that I mocked him?
Absolutely.
What does that mean to you?
You made a joke about another governor claiming, even the night before your announcement, that he called you and asked you not to run. And you made a mockery of that because I told him he can't win. You're convinced you're the only one who can win. That comes off with quite a bit of pride and arrogance, which we all know the Lord hates. We've seen a lot of that. There was a lot of defensiveness, and I encourage everyone to listen to Ryan Schuling's interview yesterday because you presented yourself with the person that I think you are. And as governor, I don't know how you're going to work with people that are challenging you, especially these socialists, if every answer is defensive and angry. And that's what's come across.
Well, ma'am, I promise you, you've not seen me angry.
Well, that scares me a little bit. That scares me a little bit that your first integrity, your first learning that you're a leader was punching another kid. That's just not something governor material would say.
Wait, ma'am, you're all over the place.
So let's go back to the original question. What did Scott ask you?
Context on who you are.
Good. I follow closely. I follow closely. That's why.
Your bias.
Okay. So I don't agree with Charity McPike at all. Matter of fact, she's a loose cannon. So yeah, I'm not sure I would have used that as a good example of the conversations. But because the vileness that you can't just come out and start attacking people. But the context is right, and the question never gets answered. It really is what it comes down to. Did he or did he not ask you to be his lieutenant governor? And the answer is no, he didn't. And I have a bone to pick. My bone to pick is because of Tina Peters. The fact that you would go against President Trump, that's my bone to pick. So if you're in Colorado and you listen to this and you see this podcast, I'm just telling you right now that I can't stand with someone who would stand for a system that is absolutely fraudulent. To tell me two things. He said something that I thought was interesting, and that was, I've been told that the elections are taken care of, everything's going to be fine, and that they're free and fair, right? So that means somebody else is in his campaign, that's in his ear, that's telling him these things. And frankly, could he win if he's the guy that they choose? Of course. But if it's the people that choose, the answer is no, he can't. And the backwardness of trying to control the situation and feeling like you are something different than you are, I can't get behind that. And I won't get behind that. So I got 8 days, guys. I got 8 days to make a decision on what I'm going to do. So I'll be deep in prayer. You stay in prayer. But I can tell you right now who's not my guy. And my guy is not going to be Victor Marx. So if he becomes the governor, I'll support him if he does the right thing, and I won't if he doesn't. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. What I care about is, can you take care of the people? I don't believe that most politicians can, because most politicians want to be politicians. They want that position. I frankly don't want any of it. I don't want any of this. Okay. I love all of you. I love all of you. I truly love all of you. But let me just tell you, I'm not a podcaster. I'm just a guy with a dog. I'm a guy that has built successful businesses, that worked overseas, that did things for probably the weirdest reasons you could ever imagine. Like, nobody could ever sit in here and tell me that I did something because I was chasing a dollar, because it's just not true. I mean, since 2007, I should say. Since 2007, I've never chased a dollar, ever. And as a result, people have taken a lot of dollars from me. And they've lied and they've cheated and they get on it's crazy. And I will tell you stuff, and man, if you're an ugly baby, I will call you an ugly baby, because that's just the way it is. It doesn't mean I don't love your ugliness, but it's just, if you're an ugly baby, you're an ugly baby. The reason why I'm running for governor is because I don't believe that the people that are there will do the things they said that they would do. Because it's too superfluous. It's too 40,000 foot. They don't make firm commitments. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't know what I'm going to do. Here's what I will tell you. I'm going to pray about it. You pray about it. And we'll come back in the middle. Somebody sent me something that said I need to check my text messages. Somebody sent me a thing saying to read this prayer. I didn't get a chance to read it. I don't even think I have my deal here. See if I can get on here real quick. Boop, boop. All right. Let me see here. Jeff sent me something. Here's a prayer for you. I can't read something that's revised, Jeff. I can't read this today. Maybe I'll read it tomorrow. Hold on. Let me just look over it real quick. This is a revised Psalm 101. Man, I don't know how I feel. So what are you saying, Jeff? You basically took Psalm 101 and then rewrote it with your own words? Answer that question in the comments. Wish all the states had someone like you as their governor. Our country would be in a better place. Oh, that's probably the nicest something someone could say about me. Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to read it until I talk to you, Jeff, so I'm not going to read it yet. Here's a prayer for you. It's probably a really good prayer, though, by the way. I'm just not going to call it a psalm. You know what? I'm going to read this prayer. This is a prayer. But it's Jeff's prayer. So, Jeff, I'm going to read your prayer, not a revision of anything. It's just your prayer. So I'll read it. And this will be my prayer for all of you. First of all, pray, stand, speak, act. It's a real thing. That cross that was made for me, it sits in my, it sits in the lobby of the office. It was a cross that was made by Rick Cherry. Rick Cherry lost his wife. He listens to the podcast. He drove it 8 hours while his wife was sick to deliver it in a box, a commissioned box. It doesn't have any bolts in it. It took, I can't even imagine the hours it took. And it sits in the lobby. Every single person that walks into my office, into the building, sees this cross that says pray, stand, speak, act. When I play golf, which I did today, I have a coin, and that coin is the coin that we have. Like I always play with my coins, pray, stand, speak, act. I have it. And the one that I have is the Gideon 300, one that I played with today. It is not, I guess what I'm saying, this is not a, we have an obligation not to just sit on the sidelines and listen to podcasts. We have an obligation to take it and say, okay, all right, coach, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. I'm going to participate here. Gammy is probably the most vigilant on this. But those are the things I think you need to do. But we have an obligation to do that. And that cross is a symbol of what I think I need to be doing every day. So that's why it sits in my office, and people can ask questions about it. All right, Jeff, I'm going to read your prayer. We will sing of you, of your steadfast love and justice. To you, O Lord, we will make music and lift our praise. We pray that you will lead us to the path that are blameless. How long before you come to restore us? We long for integrity in the Congress and the courts. We will abide nothing less. We will not tolerate any worthless fellows nor their worthless pursuits. We hate the works of these scoundrels. Yet they're not be allowed to remain. Let them not be allowed to remain in power. Those with perverse hearts shall be cast away. The evil are an anathema to us and shall not stand. Whoever holds the secret of blackmail shall be destroyed. Those who prideful think they can not be touched by our wrath will be brought low. Our blessings will be on those who serve faithfully. They will remain unscathed. Those who are blameless shall be allowed to continue serving your people. No one who practices deceit shall remain in Congress or the courts. No one who lies to your people may remain. Their fame shall become enigma and shame. Morning by morning, we will eliminate these purveyors of wickedness. We shall remove these evildoers from seats of power, and we may once again be one nation under God. Help us, O Lord, to see the righteous flourish and the wicked be brought low. Revive us by your Holy Spirit and aid us as we seek to cleanse this land and return it to you as a fitting tribute for the blessings you have so generously bestowed upon us. Hear us and answer us, Almighty Lord Jesus, and we the people will give you the honor and glory and praise you so richly deserve. Amen. All right. There's our prayer. Get rid of these people. All right, you guys have a great night. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Go over there, give us a 5-star review, do the things. I see that Eric Coomer and his little buddy showed up today. So hit the little up button if you can. It looks like there's a bunch of people on Rumble. The total number of people, now that I have this counter, that are watching live right now is, wow, that's little. 14,211. 2009 now. All right. You guys have a great night. We'll see you soon. Remember, share. You're the ambassadors of truth. God bless you.
Rise up untamed in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through.